Pete did a pilot with the Arkansas Parks and Recreation Foundation.
Cool.
People are coming.
Oh yeah, well, that's good. I'm glad y'all reminded me because I completely forget. But it was from 5 to 7. I remember.
Do you hear that high pitched sound? I don't know. It just started. Yeah.
I got hearing aids. I don't hear nothing.
Okay, nice.
I hear nothing.
I'll be out the next 2 weeks.
Oh my. Okay. Well, have safe travels. Hope y'all make it back. Okay.
Yeah.
This world is crazy. Bye bye.
Your mind right, because I think it helps tremendously with your mental health.
Andrea Ross, Arkansas News Service. Find our trust indicators at newsservice.org.
Hello, friendly listeners. This is Stephanie from Nevermind the Morning Show, and it's time to celebrate the season KABF style. Join your favorite radio hosts and fellow listeners for our holiday hangout on Tuesday, December 9th from 5 to 7 p.m. at Whitewater.
Oh my God.
Kick back during happy hour, enjoy a live DJ set from Charles Wright of Bantam Radio, and grab some exclusive KABF merch for the holidays. It's our way of saying thanks for supporting the voice of the people. See you Tuesday, December 9th, 5 to 7 p.m. at Whitewater Tavern, only with KABF 88.3 FM.
Support from KABF 88.3 FM comes from listeners and community partners. If you are a business owner or planning an event and would like information on how it can be announced on KABF, contact our office at 501-372-6119. That's 501-372-6119.
Support for KABF 88.3 FM comes from Wrightsville University. Wrightsville University provides online self-paced courses focused on writing and communication skills. Offerings include grammar, proofreading, copy editing, grant writing, sermon writing, AI prompt writing, and guidance on self-publishing. Each course includes a preview option, a certificate of completion, and supplemental learning materials. Radio 88 is the code available for a discount at WrightWillUniversity.com. Wrightwill University welcomes students, adult learners, and workplace professionals seeking to strengthen their written and spoken communication. More information is available at WrightWillUniversity.com. We thank Wrightwell University for supporting KABF 88.3 FM, the voice of the people.
Every person is entitled to 30 fundamental human rights, and you only need to do one thing to enjoy all of them. Know them. Get your free human rights booklet today. Go to humanrights.com.
Tell me why a price of someone else's life equals my dollar. Tell me why the price of someone else's life equals my dollar. How many years home now, rubble. Where is your truth? Where is your candle? Yes, we coming in hot this morning right here at KABF 88.3 FM, where we are the voice of the people. You are listening to Community Voices with your host, the Reverend Doctor. You can call me Denise. We are so glad that you have chosen this time to be present with us in this space. We realize and we recognize that there would be no KABF 88.3 FM without you. You are so important to us. You make us happen. And for that, we are forever grateful. Hotep is already on the line, wishing us life, prosperity, and health. It is in the spirit of Sawubona that we greet you this morning, that we welcome you into this space, whoever you are willing to have conversation with us in the spirit of Sawubona, that is the spirit of oneness. We are bound together by our humanity, and there is nothing, absolutely nothing we can do about that absolute fact. But we can do something about the way we interact with each other based on our humanity. And that's what the conversations, that's what underscores each of the conversations here at Community Voices. So we are glad that you know how welcome you are in the spirit of Sawubona. And Community Voices centers Blackness in the context of the human story. So we're talking about everybody. So everybody is a part of this conversation, but we do center Black folks. Not very many places can you go where people center Blackness, but right here at KABF 88.3 FM every Tuesday morning from 9 to 10 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time. That is what we do. So bringing us in this morning, let me tell y'all. So Tony, I don't know if he's going to come or not. He said he might be late, which means, he might be here and he might not. So for those of you wondering where your co-host is this morning, if he shows up, I will absolutely give him an opportunity to greet you and to let you know whatever else he wants to tell you. Okay, so the song that we started with today is it's rooted in this song called Dollar by this artist called I Am Rose. I Am Rose is a non-binary sibling of ours who is from Louisiana. And after Hurricane Laura destroyed their home, they decided to relocate, and they relocated in the UK. And so now they live in Eastbourne. But it was during that time of struggle after their house was decimated, like there was no way to go back to the house. That's when they were discovered on TikTok. It's really interesting to me when we talk a lot about connecting the dots. I don't really know where we are in the conversation because they're not talking about it too much. But I remember there was this huge push to ban TikTok. And we began to ask the question, why do you want to ban TikTok? What's the big deal about TikTok? Well, for some people like this artist, I Am Rose, TikTok is how you get your voice heard. It is how you are able to express the things that you want to express. It's how you can remain unfiltered and uncensored. It's how you can be unapologetically whoever you are. And the world can be invited in because everybody can log on to TikTok and scroll through and find you. And so this idea of people, especially Black folks, being able to come up, being able to earn a whole entire living wage, and even more than that through what is happening on TikTok, because you can monetize yourself on TikTok, on Facebook, on all of these streamlining platforms. And so that's what happened to I Am Rose, deciding to just embrace the arts, embrace the lyricism of who they are, and to share that with the world. And then somebody named Fred again, who is now their producer, actually sampled a couple of their songs in the work that he does. And so that's how she became, I mean, I don't know how popular she is to a lot of people, but she's definitely popular in London, where they had a sold out show. So this is I Am Rose, and they want us, part of what their mission is and part of what their purpose is with the arts, with the music, with the gifts that they have been given, is to make sure that we are having conversations that call for us to think more deeply about all of the issues of our lives. And even if you're talking about one issue, can what we think about that issue also help us to understand another issue? So also connecting the dots. So wanting us to be able, also this artist wants to pull us away from blindly following people, whoever it is, and especially if it's a celebrity. Like, just because they are a celebrity, you say, oh, I want to make sure that I follow them. I want to do what they do. I want to be like they are. Like, let's just stop. Let's just stop with all of that. And so this song, all of their songs are rooted in some kind of issue, whether the issue is capitalism, whether the issue is homophobia, transphobia, whatever the issue is, all of the work that this artist does is rooted in one of those issues, and calling us to think about it and giving us information that will help us have more conversations that we need to have in this world. We need to have some different conversations than the ones we are having now. So this particular song is about the exploitation of bodies in particular. All bodies, anybody, but asking the question of, well, this is the chorus. Tell me why the price of someone else's life equals my dollar. Tell me why the price of someone else's life equals my dollar. In other words, when you think about all the wars that we are having in this world, and you say, a lot of people, when they ask a question like, what's going on, people will say, follow the money. And so, like, if you're really trying to figure it out, if you really want to get an understanding, if you're really trying to get to the root cause analysis, like, follow the money. And when we think about all the wars that happen all across our world, when you follow the money, war is profitable. So at the expense of someone else's life, then you get a dollar. And if we think about the system of enslavement here in America, absolutely the cost of people's lives, my ancestors and your ancestors, the price of their bodies were exploited in order to give dollars to this country, because this world, like the United States, would not be the United States if it were not for the exploitation of bodies, in particular bodies from the diaspora. And so that's what this conversation that I Am Rose is having with us in this song. And then they also go on to say, I care, that we care. Like, you don't care and you won't care, right? But we care. And because we care, that should make you care. So some of us only care about the things that directly impact us. And if it doesn't impact us, we act like it doesn't even exist. And so we don't show up for the folks that need us to show up, because we're like, that ain't my issue. But as soon as it comes to your door, now you want to be vocal about it. Now you want to raise up. Now you want to pass laws. But why can't you simply say, because we are in the Spirit of Sawubona, I say that wherever I find injustice, I don't care who the population is that's being targeted, I'm going to get into that fight, because that's a good fight for me to be in. And I'm not going to wait for it to come at my door. I'm going to make sure that I'm on the front lines every single time, because that is what we need. We need everybody to understand that we are in this together. And for people who call themselves allies, you're going to be a central part of this conversation in just a minute. But right now, already came through the door, already got his phone online, already showing up on Facebook, is your co-host for the community show. Community Voices. The pastor. I can't even say it today. Toney Orr.
Hey, good morning, everyone. It is good to be back on the air. Been hit and miss the past few weeks, doing work in different places and different spaces. But it's good to be back. Hope everybody's having a great day so far.
Do you have any announcements, Tony?
No announcements.
Okay. So, I think that's all I want to say about I Am Rose to get us started with making sure that we are thinking more deeply about the issues that involve all of us, and especially that idea, that concern that I Am Rose has it, even if the struggle is not yours, it's not at your door presently, please know and please understand that it's going to get to your door. It is not there right now, but it's going to come for you. And so why not go ahead and be engaged in the conversation for everybody who's struggling and not simply waiting for your own struggle. So that's what's grounding us in the conversation. But I'm going to lift the conversation up out of just talking about the price of dollars in terms of war, but also talk about the price of dollars in terms of slavery, but also talking about the price of dollars as it relates to immigration, as it relates to all systems of domination and oppression. But immigration is going to play a role in this conversation too. So immigration, we're going to talk about allies. We're going to talk about right after we have this from our EJI tidbit for today. So this was on December 7th in 1874. On December 7th in 1874, after a formerly enslaved man is elected sheriff in Vicksburg, Mississippi, white people remove him and kill Black citizens who try to reinstate him. He is later shot in the head by a white deputy. Let me read that one more time. On December 7th, in the year 1874, after a formerly enslaved man is elected sheriff in Vicksburg, Mississippi, white people remove him and kill Black citizens who try to reinstate him. He is later shot in the head by a white deputy. I feel like it's important to use this tidbit in particular today because of how the conversation is expected to unfold. Like because of y'all, we don't really know how things are going to unfold. I plan it and I let it go. Once I sit down in this control seat, I let it go and we're going to go with the flow. But the way it's designed is for us to see the importance of the vote, to see the importance of the electorate and who we entrust with our vote and where and why we entrust. Why do we choose to vote for these particular people and why do we choose not to vote for these particular people? That's very important. Here we have a formerly enslaved man who was rightfully, justly elected to serve as sheriff in Vicksburg, Mississippi, Mississippi being my home state. Nothing that he did was wrong. He followed the process, followed the rules. But because of the people who believe, the white folks, because of the system of whiteness who cannot stand the thought of having to be under the leadership and under the rule of a Black person. Oh, no. I don't care who elected you. This is what we're about to do. And so thinking about how the system of voting, when we talk about people saying, well, I ain't gonna vote. You say, well, if it were not under attack, you say it's not important. If it weren't important, it would not be under attack. And it's constantly under attack. From 1874 to 2025, our vote is constantly under attack because there is power in your vote to make sure that you're being represented by somebody who understands you, who cares about your issues, who's willing to go step on the line, be out front for your issues. That's very important. And so here they are, they remove this Black man and then they kill anybody who was trying to help him. Any Black citizen got killed who was trying to reinstate him. And then later a white deputy, here goes the law enforcement, shoots him in the back and shoots him in his head. And so we're going to be talking about that, connecting the dots of racism, the dots of voter suppression, the dots of voting in a representative, in a republic, because that's what we vote in. We would vote in a republic. We got to stop saying that this is a democracy. We vote in a republic. We vote for people to represent us. And what does that look like for us today? And how does I Am Rose and this particular tidbit help us have that conversation? That's what we're thinking about. So the phone lines, Tony, are they open?
Yes, they are.
Oh, okay. Phone lines are open at 501-433-0088. The phone lines are open at 501-433-0088. Call in and lend your voice to the conversation. After all, you are listening to 88.3 FM KABF, where we are the voice of the people. Tony, you have something to say?
Yeah, and I just want to just talk about something you said earlier about eventually issue is going to hit your door. I just spent a week in France, primarily in the south of France, in a city called Cergy, and it was for the Global Labor Institute. We had over 30 countries represented, and there was a lot of discussions, had a lot of great workshops, a lot of different breakout sessions about this one thing. Sometimes we don't realize that what's happening somewhere else affects somewhere else, and how it all comes together, because it is a concerted effort around the world, whether you call it the far right, whether you call it white supremacy, whether you call it capitalism. It's a concerted effort not only to keep Black people, Black bodies, and when I say Black, I'm talking about the whole African diaspora, oppressed, and to keep those who are marginalized and poor oppressed. And one of the things we talked about was we had an organizer from Swaziland, and his presentation focused on Mary Turner. And the name Mary Turner, if you don't remember, was part of the EJIT. And Mary Turner was lynched for publicly speaking out against her husband, who was lynched a day earlier. And Mary Turner was not only lynched, her body was shot up, she was 8 months pregnant, the baby was cut out of her womb and killed. And he brought that up to show that you think this is just something that happened 100 years ago or 200 years ago. He talked about that this is still happening in Sudan, this is still happening in Swaziland, this is still happening in the Democratic Republic of Congo, this is still happening. These are things that are still happening in other countries around the world. And if you don't, and you talked about allies, Denise, and that's what's the thing that we were all looking at. How can we ally together, not only for what's going on in Africa, Haiti, or Myanmar, but also what's going on in the U.S. And then he brought something to basically it silenced everybody. He said, you only care about what you care about, and you don't care about nothing else until, like you said, Denise, it happens to you. But you have to realize, just because it's not happening to you, it's not happening to everybody. And we all had to look at ourselves and recognize that. And so when you think about what's going on in now troops in New Orleans, when you think about bombings of ships in the Caribbean, when you think about voter suppression, when you think about people being pulled off the streets, immigration, when you think about Black people who are driving down the street and get stopped and end up dead, when you think about all that, just because it's not happening in your little neck of the woods does not mean it's not happening somewhere else, and does not mean it does not affect you. All these things affect us, and that's why it's so important that you have to have allies, and you have to be willing to say, I'm going to get in the fight. Because if I don't get in the fight is going to come to my front door, and I'm not going to be prepared for the fight.
So part of the fight is when we talk about centering Blackness in the context of the human story, that human story part is where we talk about having allies. And that's a word that many people like to use. I'm an ally of this community. Ally meaning that you want to show up for folks who have identities that you don't check, for boxes you don't check. So there are men who will say, I'm an ally for women. And so they are not women. They don't check that box, but they show up for women because they understand the importance of women's issues. Or there are people who are not Democrat, but they say, well, I don't know if they do the Democrat, but you say, well, then I'm not a person of trans experience. However, I'm an ally of that population, of that group of people, because I believe that their issues are important enough for me to be in the fight with them, because everybody needs to be living liberated regardless of your sexual orientation, your gender identity. Same thing for race, the same thing for gender, for class, all of those things. So an ally is a person who says, no, I will show up for you. And what has happened over the course of time recently here in especially our country, but I'm sure it happens globally as well, is that we've taken that word and we as our own selves will apply it to ourselves and we wear it like it's a badge. I want you to know we'll show up in spaces where we have not been invited, but we'll show up in those spaces and say, oh no, I want to be here because I'm your ally. I want to help you. I want to be here. I want to know what the conversation is about. And that's all that you are willing to do at the end of the day. And so as an ally, you just want people to see you. You want to show up with your little badge on because you're going to say it. You're not going to, I don't think you're going to wear the badge that says ally, but you're going to stand up at some point in the space and say, I'm your ally and I'm here to help you. I'm here to support you. You're going to say things like that. And so many times we get duped by that. We see somebody in a space where there's movement happening in that space because we're strategizing, we're coming up with tactics and we're organizing, we're mobilizing. We see a person in that space and they say that they're an ally and we just take their word for it. But we don't vet them to see if really you are who you say you are, because it's so easy to say you're an ally, but it's difficult to actually show up in a way where you are boots on the ground right beside me, where you put your life on the line as mine is on the line, and mine is on the line because I'm targeted, but you put yours on the line willingly because you know there's a possibility that if you stand up in the ways that you are supposed to stand up as an ally, if you stand up, that means that you might get killed too, and you are willing to do that. That's what the real definition of ally includes, but many of us don't want to go that far. We want to say, yeah, I'm your ally. We want to talk about it. We want to be known for it, all of that. But when the rubber meets the road, we do not show up in the ways that we need to show up for the people that we call our allies. And another thing about that is if you are anybody that has to tell me who they are in a space, you suspect. If you got to tell me you're the ally, if you got to tell me you're the pastor, if you got to tell me you're the president, if you got to tell me you're the leader, then that means that you're not doing the work. Because if you're doing the work, I can recognize that in you. When I see the space being commanded, how it's working out and how you're moving in the space, I can recognize that. But if you got to tell me, that means that you're more concerned about the title than you are about the work. And so people who are allies, you should not name yourself that. The community who you say you are in allyship with, the community will name you that. So when you go somewhere, you say, oh yes, my name is Denise. There's the person that brought you into the space will be like, oh yeah, and Denise is an ally of ours. Okay, that person vouches for you instead of you trying to vouch for yourself. But allyship is not what we need right now, like I said, because it's divorced from, it's devoid now of the willingness of the allies to actually say, no matter what happens to you, if it happens to me, I'm willing to go down for the cause. It's devoid of that now. And so what we're looking for now, we're looking for accomplices. We're looking for folks that say, yes, let me roll up my sleeves. Let me take off my earrings. Let me grease my face and my hand. Like, let me get in this fight with you and let's do it for real, for real. And so I thought about this because of a video that one of the community members sent me. Again, I'm going to shout out to those of you who are always sending me resources. When I tell y'all have me, I be up all night. Anyway, I appreciate it. I love it. I love it. So one of the community members, one of the loyal listeners, as Ezekiel would say, sent me this clip. The clip is an interview with Ann Coulter, who is a conservative commentator. She is a Republican. She is an advocate for Donald Trump, even though she might have a few issues, but absolutely she is in that realm of politics. And she's being interviewed on This Week on ABC News. I guess the title of the show is This Week. And I want you to hear the beginning of this interview that she's having with this guy. It's only going to take like 46 seconds. If my math is right, it's only going to take about 46 seconds to hear what she has to say. And then we will continue to have the conversation after that.
Various groups, feminist, gay rights groups, and those who are defending immigrants have commandeered the Black civil rights experience. What do you mean by that?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that because I think it's one of the most important points of the book. I mean, I think the way liberals have treated Blacks like children and many of their policies have been harmful to Blacks. At least they got the beneficiary group right. We do have to, we shouldn't. There is the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow laws. We don't owe the homeless. We don't owe feminists. We don't owe women who who are desirous of having abortions, but that's or gays who want to get married to one another. That's what civil rights has become for much of the left. You know, the blacks after 5 minutes.
Immigrant rights are not civil rights?
No, I think civil rights are for blacks.
See, this is essentially the problem.
What have we done to the immigrants? We owe black people something. We have a legacy of slavery. Immigrants haven't even been in this country.
But you see, most of us are either immigrants or are the descendants of immigrants. And
Okay, that's the only part that I wanted you to hear, because if you just hear that part, well, that's the only part, you know, that's the part I wanted to play for you, but it moves from there. So here we have Ann Coulter, who is a conservative commentator. So just by that title alone, people would be like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe that she's standing up for black. Listen to what she's saying. So she's advocating here. This is what you hear. She's advocating for black folks to get their just due. She's advocating for black folks to make sure that their civil rights, we as a world, the policies that we've created, all the stuff we've done in the past, we have deprived black folks of their civil rights. We have denied them access to the systems that will help them live into their abundant life. We've done all of these things on purpose to black folks, and they are the ones who should be the beneficiaries of what's happening now. All of our laws, all of our legislation should be geared towards making sure we rectify the wrongs against black people. And it sounds so good. It'll make you sit up and say, come on, Ann Coulter, okay, I see you. I'm finna call you an ally, but you can't. But that's what we do. One, especially with politicians. They come to your church once a year, only during campaign season, and they say some words about you, then say some words about Jesus, and now everybody's like, oh, that's who I'm gonna vote for. Politicians say, oh, they campaign on a promise, I'm gonna do this for you, I'm gonna do that for you, and we say, okay, as long as you say something about blacks, or whatever the issues are, whatever the single issue is that and as long as you say something about abortion, as long as you say something about whatever your issue is, then I'm willing to vote for you and get you in office, without understanding that who the person is, at least who they are to us. Because I don't know who Ann Coulter is to her family. I'm not even interested in that. I want to know who you are to the world as it relates to the work you are going to do to help us as citizens live as liberated people. That's what I'm concerned about. So all of that sounded good. And then the man interrupts her. He interrupts her, and he's going to move the conversation to immigration. And honestly, that's where Ann Coulter wants to go. She's mad at Donald Trump for how he is handling or mishandling the issues around immigration. That's her concern. But she uses this introduction about who deserves civil rights, and she's like, no, black people deserve them, in order to make her argument about immigration. So she allows the conversation about black people to just drop right there in the air. And that's what happens with allies most of the time, not 100% of the time, but most of the time. You go into a room, because what allyship says is, I'm going to show up in a room where you are not present. And I know that you are not present, but I will speak on your behalf because I am your ally. I'm going to bring your voice into the room. I'm going to stand up for your issues. I'm going to put everything on the line to make sure that people understand you, because you're not here to do it for yourself. So I, as your ally, I will do that. If Ann Coulter was truly an ally and was truly pushing about black people and our civil rights, when the man tried to turn to immigration, she said, whoa. Let me tell you what you're not going to do. You're not going to silence this conversation about black folks, because they are the ones who are deserving of the civil rights that they still have not gotten. Now, you want to talk about these people like the feminists. You want to talk about gay rights. You want to talk about immigration. That's what you want to talk about. But hey, let's talk about this first. But she doesn't do that. She never, ever comes back to even circle around to getting back to the black folks. She lets the conversation go from there, because that was just a lead in. Talking about black people was just a lead in to get her to where she really wanted to go, which was not about black people at all. And so we've got to get to the point. I Am Rose is saying, let's stop just thinking about stuff superficially. Let's stop just blindly following somebody just because they said a couple of words that we agree with. Let's really dig in. Let's really go deeper and figure out what's going on. Because if you're my ally, if you come in and you say, I'm going to speak on behalf of you, then you can't let nobody silence you, because I ain't gonna let nobody silence me. If I was in that room, you can't silence me. So if you're in the room in my stead, you can't allow yourself to be silenced either. Not if you are a true ally, but that's not what you are. That's why I'm now saying we need you to be an accomplice.
Yeah, I agree. There are so many times certain things are said that piques the interest or get people enthused, but then when you go deeper and start to look at it, like you said, it becomes superficial. When you think about when you think about what's going on in this country and other countries, and you hear people asking for resources, because part of showing me you're an ally is what resources you have are you going to share, are you going to give to us for this fight? I think about one of the first days that hit me when I got back this weekend was that this video of the neo-Nazi group walking through the neighborhood, walking through the predominantly Black neighborhood, and just walking, and you have all these, they were talking about it on Facebook, they were talking about it, and people were saying this. But it was amazing to me when you start talking about these allies. If this was a Black group, you say this was the Black Lives Matter movement, and they're walking through a predominantly white neighborhood. They could have been walking through a predominantly Black neighborhood. There would have been SWAT, there would have been police, state troopers, National Guard would have been called out. The resources of those other allies would have mobilized to stop this. But where was the resources of the allies to, at some point in time, the minute, it's kind of like when the fight took place in, was it Mobile, where the guy threw his hat up, and everybody came. That should have happened. There should have been a hat thrown up, and at some block, this group should have met the allies. I said, no, you're not going to march through our neighborhood with that. But if it was on the other side, those allies would have mobilized their resources to stop this. And that's what it comes down to. When you talk about getting skin in the game, how far are you going? When we do civil disobedience, when I've been in places where we're doing civil disobedience, and they get that last call with the bullhorn, the police said, if you don't disperse now, you will be arrested. And you have the allies who lock arms and say, hey, fine. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that's for everybody. I'm not saying everybody's going to do that. I understand being Black, you don't want to be arrested, because bad things will happen. But that's when the resources, that's when those who got skin in the game and going to stand there with you, because at some point in time, and that's one of the things we talked about while I was in France, at some point in time, one person said, you're waiting on war to come, but war's already here. You're waiting for the conflict to come, but the conflict is already here. You're waiting for a revolution, but the revolution is already here. Are you going to open your eyes and become part of it? Or are you going to sit on the sidelines and talk about it and discuss it?
So this is what Lo says. Lo says, the lion and the hyena will never be friends. And that's a quote. Not all are your friend or ally. The lion and the hyena will never be friends. That's quoted. And not all are your friend or ally. That comes from Hotep. And so when we talk about being an ally, and I said, well, use an ally, what you say is, I'm going to represent you when you are not in the room. Well, that's one way that people feel like I can be an ally. But based on what you said, Tony, there's another way. And for me, a more significant way for you to be an accomplice is for you to say, okay, I'm going to use my privilege to get you in the room. Right. And you can tell your own, because can't nobody tell your story better than you. I didn't say nobody can tell your story, but nobody can tell your story better than you, because some stories, you got to feel in your body when the person is talking. Some stories, when they open their mouths, the hairs on the nape of your neck, on your arm, they stand up because you can feel it in your soul what they're saying about their situation. And those are the stories that have way more impact than the ally, than the accomplice, the ally talking for me. So you have privilege, whatever the privilege is, whether it's financial privilege, whether it's racial privilege, whether it's gender privilege, whatever privilege you have, use it to get me in the room and now hand off the microphone to me. we talked to Dr. Karama Neal was on the show not too long ago, and I said that part of our story, well, really the beginning of our story as it stands now, is that she invited me to sign the petition about reproductive justice for women, but for all people, for humans. And then, so we were signing, and there was a group of us signers, those of us who were getting signees. They were out there. I know what it was. It was around this time of the year because Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So the commission here, the MLK commission here, was out there. We're going to have a giveaway. And so those of us who were signing up people, we wanted to be in that space because we knew it was going to be a long line of folks for a long period of time. We wanted to take advantage of that time. And so Dr. Whitfield said, hey, is something going on over there? Can you go see what's going on? So I showed up to regulate. I'm like, what's going on over here? And when I showed up, it was all white people. And I was like, wait, what's happening? Look, what's going on? And so they told me about how they were being treated, how the group of us who were looking for people to sign for the amendment to sign up in favor of reproductive justice against what was going on with abortion rights and all of that. She said they've been harassing us. And what we said was, we didn't want y'all to be out here. We got it. Because they talking about arresting folks. So we wouldn't be arrested. So we here. That's why it's all of us. Because we're here. Because we don't want you. We don't even want you to even think about it. Because I know you'll get arrested with me. I know. But no. That's what we're gonna. We decided that this is our space and our time. And whatever happens, if we get whatever happens, we gonna do it. That's what an accomplice does. It doesn't say, oh, stand right here with us. And if you go down, we all go down. I'm gonna go down on your behalf because that's how bound I am to the spirit of Sawubona. That's how bound I am. And when we talk about Ann Coulter, she's the one who makes these comments and it makes it seem like, oh my goodness, she is really, really, really interested in Black rights. Because she even goes on, I don't know if you heard that part, because I kind of cut that part off, where she says the young man who interrupts her, I don't even know his name, he was talking about we're all, at some point, we're all immigrants. And she was like, no, it says some of us aren't, whatever he said, she said everybody's immigrants. And he said, no, there are some natives here. And so she's talking about, in the clip that you heard, she says, we don't owe immigrants anything. She said, we don't owe immigrants, we don't owe feminists, we don't owe the homeless, we don't owe them. People who are desirous of getting abortions, people who want to be married to someone of their same gender, we don't owe them anything, that we don't owe them. And it's interesting to me because when you look back in her history, she comes from immigrants. And so it's really interesting how in this country and in this world, you show up in a space. This is another reason why I got a problem with allies, just the way that we practice allyship right now. You show up in a space and you say you're here for the good of all. You say you're going to do all the work, but then you leave people behind. And so you come in on the backs of Black folks, but then you leave all of the movements that she named. When she talked about feminists, when she talked about gay rights, when she talked about abortion issues, all of those campaigned on the back of civil rights for Black folks. So she's right. We don't owe you anything, but guess what? You are the ones benefiting from all of the exploitation of our work. And we still over here talking about where are our reparations? And y'all acting like y'all can't figure it out. Y'all can't figure out how to make it work. You can figure out whatever you want to figure out. You done figured out the system of whiteness that continues to be in full effect because it's the face of the system of white inhumanity. So you do what you want. So her own people are immigrants, but now that they were immigrants, but what did they do? They assimilated and they became white. And so now they consider themselves, oh, no, I'm not an immigrant. This country belongs to me. Like that's the rhetoric of many white people that are suffering from whiteness. And not even white people. I know it's more than white people in whiteness. I know that. And so when you talk about Ann Coulter also being a staunch proponent of Donald Trump, and you think about Donald Trump and what he has done with the Bible. Y'all know what Donald Trump has done with the Bible. Has anybody talked about that?
Yeah, what?
The fact that he
put the Constitution in the Bible.
Stop right there. He put the Constitution in the Bible, but he left out of that Constitution amendments 11 through 27. So he said, I want the Constitution to be in the Bible because, they doing something with this Christian nationalism. But but it's not going to be all of the Constitution. I'm not going to let in 11 through 27. And only the ones that for this, I only pulled out the one. Listen, y'all, I'm a show enough preacher. I'm going to pull out the points that help me get my point across in the name of your Jesus. That's what I'm going to do. So I just want to pull out those that help this conversation move forward, because not all of them are helpful for the conversation. All of them are helpful but not for this conversation. Amendment 13 is not in the Constitution that's in the Bible that Trump, y'all, they signed. I think they were selling it for $65 or something like that. The Amendment 13 that abolishes slavery is not in there. Amendment 14 that defines citizen, it's not in there. The amendment about prohibition is not in there. When the amendment about granting women the right to vote, maybe I should tell you the amendment. Amendment 13 that abolishes slavery and involuntary servitude, it's not in there. Amendment 14, which defines citizenship and guarantees protection and due process, is not in there. Amendment 15 that prohibits denying voting rights based on race, color, or previous servitude, it's not in there. Amendment 18 that prohibited the manufacture, sale, and transportation of alcoholic beverages, which is prohibition, it's not in there. Amendment 19 that granted women the right to vote, it's not in there. Amendment 21 that repealed prohibition, it's not in there. Amendment 22 that limits presidents to 2 terms, it's not in there. Amendment 24 where you have that bans poll taxes in federal elections, it's not in there. Amendment 26 that the right of citizens of that gives the right to vote to citizens of the United States that are 18 years old, it's not in there. So when you think about how he's campaigning on, he wants another term. He wants to be able to gerrymander so he can suppress your vote. Like all of the stuff that he is doing as a president, that he campaigned on as a presidential candidate. And this same man, Ann Coulter, who comes in acting like she all about the black folks because we deserve civil rights, she believes in this. So she's not your ally nor your accomplice, but you were just glad to hear her say something about black folks. And we got to stop doing that. I Am Rose says, hey, we need to think more deeply about these issues, because every step that this government is making is made so that they can make $1 off of the bodies at war, off the bodies in employment, off of the bodies in healthcare. We are dying at all manner of things are happening to us that's causing our death beyond just war in other countries, war right here in our country, homelessness, mental health issues, all of that. And yet, just because she says something about black folks, we fall into that trap. When are we going to begin to think more deeply about things? And when are we going to say, I don't even need you to give me the room. I can create my own room and do my own thing, because I've got just that much power if I was simply wielded in the right way.
And so when you think about it in that context, Denise, doing some conversations and friends, there were some things that were brought up. And you have to get people to open their eyes on things. So when you look at the U.S., so there are places, the U.S. just did, make Hawaii a state or Alaska a state. It was a reason why. They don't really care about the people in Alaska or Hawaii, just like they don't care about us here in Arkansas. It was to them, to this capitalistic and white people, it was strategic. When you look at Puerto Rico, we claim that if you live in Puerto Rico, you basically a U.S. citizen, but you got no rights. You look at the Virgin Islands, U.S. Virgin Islands, we claim you as a citizen, but you have no rights. You have no representation. In the Marriage Islands, one of the organizers that I met, he said something that, Denise, I heard you say 1,000 times. He said the U.S. built a naval base here, Air Force base, naval base here. And they came in to say that, hey, we're going to give you these resources and different things, but in reality, it became basically a tourist place. And the people on the island are Indian, African, and Polynesian descent. It's only 1% white, but that 1% white control 99% of everything. And he said, we're fighting with our government that's complicit with the U.S. to give us our resources and leave us alone. Give us what's ours. This is our island. Give us our island and leave us alone. If you want to have this military base, fine, but you're going to pay us. You're going to make sure that you are doing what you're supposed to do. And he said that's the problem that people don't realize, is that going back to a politician lies out of both sides of the mouth. And most of them, not all of them, but most of them. Because all they want is to convince you of something, whether it's true or not, they want to convince you of something. So once again, we see this dynamic playing out. And the one thing about the foundation of this country that you cannot get past, the reason Donald Trump didn't want those other amendments in, because the number one thing about this piece of paper, it only pertains when it was created to white, Protestant, or Christian landowners. Men. Period. Everybody else didn't matter. So this thing about all men are created equal, it's a lie. When it comes to this country, the only thing that they look at as equal in the power structure is white people.
That's all. I'm watching this series. It's called Who the Blank Did I Marry? That's what the series is called, Who the Blank Did I Marry? And there's this woman whose mother decided to join a cult. And as a result of that, she reared her daughter up in this same occult. And at some point, the mother, Stan, whoever his name is, he told the mother that God told him that her daughter should be his wife. And so all of that happened. And so she was abused. Abuse after abuse after abuse. But at some point, her oldest son, she has 2 sons by this man, and her older one day said, listen, I can't do this no more. I got to go. I'm finna go. I know that you all are not ready, but I got to go because I cannot handle this anymore. I don't have to. I'm out. So the older of her 2 children, he leaves, and he says to her, Mama, when you ready, I'll come pick you. I'll do whatever you need me to do. I will come and get you when you are ready. Just let me know. So at some point, the mama gets ready, and she says to the younger son, listen, come on, let's go. We're going to meet your brother. He says, no, I cannot go because I'm afraid I'm going to die. I'm going to go to hell if I go. I don't believe you. And he blocked the door. Didn't want her to go because you're going to go to hell too. She said, no, listen. And he finally let his mama go, but he stayed there because he was scared of going to hell if he left with his mom. So his mama leaves, just like the brother said. He goes and gets his mama. Now they are together and they waiting on the younger son to come, but he never comes because he's too worried about going to hell because he's listening to the lies of this man that said, oh, I done heard from God. Finally, the woman tells her story, her own story, to somebody who has some power, somebody who considers themselves an accomplice, who says, I'm going to help you with your story. And they got an attorney and they said, well, we understand that when we're dealing with these people, the only thing that bothers these kind of people is when you affect their bottom line. When you come for their money, that's the only time that they are concerned. They ain't concerned about your feelings. They ain't concerned about your health. They ain't concerned about anything except their bottom line. And so they said, well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to let's name the abuses. Let's name physical abuse. Let's name sexual abuse. Let's name financial abuse. Let's name psychological abuse. All the same abuses that we can name about people from the African diaspora right now in this world. Sexual abuse, financial abuse, psychological abuse, and physical abuse. We can name all of those. And he said, well, you know what we did? We put a cost on them. And when we put a cost on them, we wrote up the whatever the paper is, and we sued them based on that number. And when they got sued and they won the money. And the only stipulation for them winning the money was you can't tell anybody how much it was. That's the only stipulation. You just can't tell anybody how much it was. Now watch what happened. This white woman who was abused in the name of Jesus, she got reparations for all that had happened to her that her mama said was good for her. Her mama chose to rear her in this way. So her mama offered her up for this abuse, these atrocities, this tragedy. When you think about the system of enslavement, hey, We ain't signed on for this, but her mama did. And then brought her into the fold. She gets out and says, I'm due. And the son that had enough backbone to leave first. If he had not left, the mama would not have followed and the reparations would not have happened. And then the other son, talking about, I can't go because I'm going to end up in hell. Well, you in hell without your reparations. You so busy trying to serve a God that they done made up for you that you are not even thinking about not only your freedom, but all that comes with it through your reparations, through the acknowledgement that we know we've done you wrong. And that's what we're faced with here too when we think about the song about I Am Rose saying, listen, all of these things that are happening to us are happening because they are exploiting us. How many of us are ready to come away from the system? We talked about, Tony just talked about us being complicit. How many of us are willing to divest? Even if I got to divest all by myself, even if I'm the only person in my family, even if I'm the only person on my job, even if I'm the only person in my neighborhood, I'm going to go and get my freedom. I'm going to keep the door open for you, but you're not going to keep me bound to this mess up in here. Especially because it's costing me every single day. It's costing me my dollars that belong to me. And then how many of us are say, wait, look, they done gave me permission. I'm finna go with them. Instead of following these celebrities who are taking you to nowhere land, I'm gonna follow the people that's leading us to freedom. I'm going with the Harriet Tubman. That's who I'm choosing to follow. And then think about how many of us are just like that younger son. I can't go because I'm scared I'm gonna go to hell. See, that right there, hell is a construct meant to control your body. He's doing exactly what many of us are doing right now. I cannot fight for my freedom because I'm scared of your Jesus. And that ain't what the gospel is about at all. And at the end of the day, y'all be like, Jesus is about love. Well, that don't sound like love to me. But many of us are scared. The God we serve got us scared of hell. And so therefore we don't fight for our freedom. So we got choices to make today. We got choices about who we choose to allow in our spaces that are going to be accomplices for us. We got a time for us to choose how we can create our own spaces and be our own ally, be our own, be the ones who control our own stories. Like we have choices to make about what we can divest from and being willing to say, I will do it. We even sing a song about it in the church. If I gotta go, I'll go all by myself. That's what we say in the church. But when it's time for us to go for our liberation, we bound. Here's my brother. Oh, this is my brother, the doctor, Derek Daniel. The question that we are confronted with today is relatively simple. You can either believe me or your lying eyes. My observation has been that in today's time, people are actually struggling with this question, accepting that as fact. How does one engage in a meaningful conversation? Okay, let me read that again. This is from my brother. This is the older of the three, the firstborn. The question that, I brought my glasses in. Okay. The question that we are confronted with today is relatively simple. You can either believe me or your lying eyes. My observation has been that in today's time, people are actually struggling with this question, accepting that as fact. How does one engage in a meaningful conversation? How can we engage in meaningful conversation with you who you don't believe me, but you believe your eyes, believe your lying eyes? Wait, you can either believe me or your lying eyes. Are you going to believe me or are you going to stay complicit with the system? And if you are going to stay complicit with the system, then how do we have meaningful conversation? That is the question that my brother has posed to us. And I dare to say that we cannot have meaningful conversation with people who are not yet ready. Just like the woman in the on the show that I was watching. She couldn't go because she wasn't ready. I keep hearing people say, quote this, when the student is ready, the teacher will come. So we got a whole bunch of students out here that ain't ready. So she wasn't ready, so she couldn't go. And some of us are trying to have meaningful conversations, but with people who can't. They don't have the capacity, so we don't need to worry about them. But there are some people out there who are ready, who are willing. You lead the way and I'll go. The oldest son led the way and she came right on in. And that's what we have to do. Tony, you got anything to say?
The only thing I want to close with is that in these conversations and meaningful conversations, what you're trying to do is get to the truth and for people to understand what is true. What they have done in this country is make it seem like that when people are talking about the truth, especially from the black perspective, is that that this hatred of white people or this hatred of this country or whatever, and that's not it. What it is that we want you to recognize what's true, understand what's true, and then do something about it. And that's difficult to do because whether we believe it or not, most of us are caught up in gain. And that's the one thing that the power structure, capitalism, however you want to call it, that's the one thing they do very well. If they can gain you, they can divide you.
Thank you all so much for listening to Community Voices right here live at KABF 88.3 FM, where we are the voice of the people. You listen to me. You do not want to touch that dial. Your girl Lola already at the door, ready for 2 hours Jazzy Tuesday. And if you think you're not a jazz fan, you will be if you continue to listen to KABF for this 10 to 12 o'clock block with your girl Lola. She's coming right up now, and I'm going to get her started, especially because of this conversation with the song Backbone by Janine Latrice Perez. Let's get our backbone so that we can find our way to liberation. We'll see y'all next time.